The big society is two conceptions. One is the current Prime Minister, before he was elected, he spoke about his vision of a Britain at which a big society was at its heart. And he also spoke about his vision for a society where we replenish the big society. So first of all, there's at that rhetorical level, for British population, a connection with their Prime Minister when he was in opposition, stating this is his vision. Then there's a question of what it actually means. And I have to say that even within those who work within the big society project, there are differing conceptions of what it means. And for the public and for the media, there's another idea of it. Let me explain that very quickly. To be honest, for the public and for the media, there is a critical sense and a critical notion of big society as being a project which is there to save money for the government by getting civil and civic groups to do work for nothing. In other words, it's about badging and branding existing community-based processes and saying that we're going to hand over a lot of services to them and that they should do it for local authority, for national government. And there has been a cynical sense by some that this is a project of the government to save the money. Then there's another conception which is from the inside when you actually work in it, what actually is happening. Well, Big Society project for me and for those who work within it is nothing of what I've just stated. And it's certainly not a political project or a project which is owned by the current government or the governing party. It's a project to do with recognizing that in the UK you've got a very thriving civil society with a huge range of civic processes which are animated by groups and individuals, which range from people organizing themselves around sustainable development in their localities. It's around people organizing themselves around local economic activity. And on the other side, it's also about a sense that the UK is a very resilient society, that we have in the rural areas as well as the inner cities a very strong sense of the values and the methodologies to make the society tick. So I think for me, working in the inside of big society, it's actually about the projects which already exist in the UK and the processes which in fact they don't realize that they are doing what we are looking at in big society, namely healthy, prosperous processes from economic activity to social exchange, from projects which are about setting up dialogues between people who don't normally talk with each other, to setting up very innovative, radical ways of carrying out economic activity. So from the inside, here at Big Society Network, we are incubating projects which are both projects to do with economic activity, but also projects which are to do with consulting with local communities about how they would like to see themselves move forward in the way that they replenish and build their communities and build the UK. So at Big Society Network we have a range of projects which are carrying that out. Big Society is about community development. It's about looking at your country as your home. And it's about understanding we are all in this together and we all need to develop that together and share and exchange knowledge. So at its heart it's about the values and processes of community development, where you don't have to question a political color, you don't have to question an idea. You understand that we are all here trying to make sure that our house is healthy and happy, that when we grow up and live and move on and become old, that we all have something to say to each other and to contribute. And I think it's about that. It's about contributing towards the development of your community.
And who are the parties in that? I mean, businesses and when you say we are all, who are we?
You say businesses. I mean, yes.
Yeah.
Well, the whole spectrum, really, from institutions which are incorporated, including commercial ones, to just groups, to the individuals, as well as just a wider notion of, a community of ideas, a neighborhood of artists, a community of those who want to put economic activity at the heart of the regeneration of a rural area. So it includes the whole range of factions, you could say, classic factions. But what we are saying is that it's about recognizing that a community is built up of individuals, and I think it's about recognizing that being a corporation and being an individual in a rural area is the same, in that there's an individual at the heart of the healthy processes of each.
Could you kind of shortly explain how you motivate people outside the community, outside the mayor's office to participate? What's in it for them? Why should they do this?
Okay, let's say you're in Aarhus and you know the Kommune and the Ridderhuset and all these spaces, and let's say you're a disabled older person who doesn't have the classic language a younger person may have. So what's in it for you? Well, you live in that society, you live in that community, you live in that town, you have an interest in being able to plan and design that city so that as you and your children and your friends and their kids and their neighbors and those that work there, that as they evolve and grow in life, that the city and its processes can respond to their needs and they don't feel at a disadvantage, either because they can't represent themselves or because somewhere the planners have left them out. So an older disabled person, for me, is a fundamental architect of the city plan, because we need to learn from those voices which don't usually demand to be heard, but they are the majority in a city, in a community. And I think in a society we need to make sure we know how to seek out those voices and how to hear them. And so I would say you should demand of the planners that you should be at that table, or rather, if that table is up there, the table should be where you are. Maybe you don't need the table, but they certainly, who are sitting at the table, need you. And I think you need to ask, in a democratic society, there's a question of democratic accountability, and you need to hold the planners, the politicians, the decision makers to count on that. So I would say, whether you are a young entrepreneur or an older person with perhaps profound disabilities, and you have an advocate for yourself, each is part of the excitement of the diversity of life in a city. Because one day, if we're lucky, we will also be old, and also our senses will be different. And that's something to look ahead to, not be paralyzed by fear. And I think it's that.
Some business owner would say, well, I'm here to make money. Why should I go out and spend a lot of money and hard work in order to change some things that I don't get money out of?
Well, you want to be in the winning side. And the winning side is that the world's population is aging. And that demographic is very powerful. They have the money in it, whether it's in health and social care for older people or older people having more money in their pockets. So a pragmatic approach would say, you want to invest in something long term, you want to invest in disabled and elderly care, but it's more than that. It's not just the care, it's about the fact that there are people who want culture. They will want to travel. They will want to eat. They will want to buy music. They will want to have houses built for them. They will want that a tree in a garden is something that they want. So the decisions are in their hands. So you want to be in a winning side, you want to go for that. But the other side is this. The other side of winning is that you want to have a spirit who just feels, I'm on the right side. This is a good thing. But also, I'm going to be there. Self-interest, then perfect. Not only do you want to earn money out of that now, but you know what? When you're older, you'll be in a position of influence and power. That's what you want to do. You want to be smart, think now. Yeah, I do want to set up a structure so that when I'm older, I'll have even more power and influence and so on. And I think I'd look ahead to that,
And to the last question, you've been to Aarhus. Do you think it's possible to change the mindset to some of the things you're doing here in London?
When I first visited Aarhus, I visited for several reasons, to look at the cultural plan, the social planning and so on. And what was very exciting for me was it had a huge range of points of view, very different points of view, both politically but also in terms of methodology. And I've worked on a number of projects there. The first thing to say is the knowledge base is absolutely phenomenal in Aarhus. I mean, it's one of the most exciting cities for that. It's the second city in Denmark, but it's the first city in terms of the sheer heterodoxy and heterogeneity of thinking, which is always strong. You'll always have questions raised. You'll never have a cozy approach to delivering stuff. And so for me, this is one of the most exciting things, is that your knowledge base is already tremendous. But your city needs to recognize that knowledge base is there to be dug up and to be platformed and not to be hidden away, because for political reasons, one side of it is easier to work with than the other. So I think you need to be willing to work with a level of discomfort and to recognize that it's actually about knowing that if you include people who will ask questions, you have far better chance of creating a map which is relevant to what's around you. And I think in Aarhus, because when I went there were just so many questions being raised in almost everything we did. I just felt, I'd rather be in a society where you have the discomfort of being asked questions and nothing's taken for granted than in a society where everyone seems to be homogenized in a way. So I think that there's a great deal of that lack of homogeneity in Aarhus. You need no help, but what you do need to do is to really be inspired that there's such difference, but there's an incredible level of excellence in that diversity. The different points of view, but each of those points of view has incredible depth and layering, and you've got an incredible ecology of social thinking, of intellectual practice, of economic practice. Chaos pilots were around there. Uffe Elbeck was there. And then, that was 10 years ago. Now you look, so many things have happened in Aarhus, and now you're suddenly seeing Uffe, who's now the culture minister. And we exchanged emails the last few days, and I was saying excitedly that I'm meeting my colleagues from Aarhus some years later now, and look how things have changed and how the opportunities are. It's so exciting that from Aarhus you've come out here to ask us questions. And before, you ask me to come over to your place, and it's great that you're coming out more. So for Aarhus, I have to say, get out more within your society. It's great that you're out here, and I really hope to be invited there to help you find the knowledge base and the new thinking that's already lying in Aarhus. I have nothing to offer but to help you uncover and reveal the incredible insights that are in that city now. And the whole of Denmark could learn from that and will learn from that.